Welcome back to our Evean HaEzer Halachic series. We are continuing in Siman 1, Halacha 2. That's Siman Aleph Halacha Bet. The Shulchan Aruch begins, En mochrin Sefer Torah ela kedei lelmod Torah v'lisa isham. One is not allowed to sell the Torah only in a situation where it's done in order for him to learn Torah or to get married to a woman. Now understand this halacha very clearly. The Shulchan Aruch is telling us right now that if a person doesn't have money, he's allowed to sell the Torah in order to learn Torah. This is an open rebuke for people that have money and are not learning Torah. Because if you are allowed to sell a Sefer Torah to learn Torah, how much more so is it required of people that have money that they have to learn Torah? And so too with marrying a woman. If a person has no money, we tell him you're allowed to sell a Sefer Torah, or even the synagogue or even the bedroom, we'll see, you're allowed to go ahead and sell the Sefer Torah in order to get married. How much more so when a person has money and he's not getting married? How wrong is it of them? It is very, very critical to know, Rabotai, these claims, these halachot will be held against people. If you have to sell Torah in order to learn Torah, that's halacha. Or to get married to a woman, which is a halacha, but you don't have the money. So we tell you, sell the Torah. If that's the case over there, how much more so is Hashem going to hold one accountable where he had the money and he didn't learn Torah, or he had the money and he didn't get married? One guy said one time, Rabbi, I'm not ready for marriage. And why is that? Well, you're 75 years old, 90 years old. What's the reason? Says, no, Rabbi. Financially, I'm not stable. Yeah? What does it mean financially you're not stable? Can I know? Give me the number. People tell you, no, I try to buy something, it's expensive. Okay, give me the number. What's expensive? $100, $1,000, $5,000. What's expensive? So I told this guy, what does it mean you're not financially stable? He says, Rabbi, I want you to understand. I have stocks, I have bonds. I have buildings that I own, I have land. I'm worth a few $1,000,000. I said, and exactly what are you afraid of? I'm not sure that this is exactly how much I need to be able to survive with my wife and my kids. Okay, Rabotai, you understand? I was going to tell him, what I tell people? What I tell people is when people don't want to get married, or people don't want to learn Torah, or people don't want to wake up early and down to come to shul. When life is good, you have all the excuses. When life pushes you against the wall, then you have no choice but to do what's needed to be done. In any event, Rabotai, we see from this halacha, one is not allowed to sell a Sefer Torah unless he needs to learn Torah or get married to a woman. Then we are going to allow him to sell the Sefer Torah. Just imagine selling a Sefer Torah. Rabotai, the Ber Hatev in Ot Bet, it just shows you how much more important it is to learn Torah. When you have money, nobody's selling anything, Baruch Hashem. You have money, why don't you learn? One time, I was when I was learning with Rabbi Wolken Shlita, way in the beginning, when I was already started picking up, and he just saw the consistency, the fire, the enthusiasm for learning Torah. He told me, why don't you sit and learn Torah? First he asked me, do you have enough financial stability to be able to sit and learn Torah? So I answered him, no. He says, okay, fine. So I asked him, what difference would it make if I would have or not? He says, if you would have to sit and learn Torah. So I told the rabbi at that time, I told him I was supporting 5 Avrichim at that time. I was working and I was supporting 5 Avrichim. So the rabbi said, before you start supporting 5 Avrichim, start supporting yourself to sit and learn Torah. Okay, that's good. That's my rabbi. But other rabbis, they wouldn't tell me. They would come and whatever it was, Baruch Hashem, you're able to help. I'm not telling you not to help. But again, we see from over here how important it is to try to use the money that you have, if it's going to allow you to learn more Torah, learn Torah. Rabotai continues the Behetev in Ot Bet. He said like this, listen to this. Bichlal ze isa, included in this rule of selling the Sefer Torah, haspakat talmidim, sustaining and providing for Talmidei Chachamim. Rabotai, did you hear what I just said? The Be'etiv is telling us that in the rule of selling a Sefer Torah is also included sustaining Talmidei Chachamim. That means if we don't have enough money for Talmidei Chachamim, we need to sell Sefer Torah. Again, another open rebuke for our community, Rabotai. You go to certain shuls, they might have 5 Sefer Torah, 6 Sefer Torah. You go other shuls, 10, other shuls, 15 and 20. Some shuls are museums, B'li'ayin hara, Baruch Hashem. But when it comes to uphold a Torah institution or Talmidei Chachamim, what do? We don't have, Rabbi. We don't have, Rabbi. We can't help, Rabbi. It's hard for us, Rabbi. You just donated the Sefer Torah, which is worth 50,000. You made a party for 50,000. The guy in the truck that sends, what do you call the Sefer Torah trucks, the Simcha, whatever. That alone was 5,000. You don't have money to help another Talmid Chacham. Rabotai, look at what's going on. You have to understand what's... Rabotai, I'm not speaking about the guys that sit along with you and you call them 5 guys, 10 guys. If a Talmid Chacham comes and he says he needs support, you tell him, we don't have. What do you mean you don't? You don't have? Sell the Sefer Torah and give it to him. What does it mean you don't have? What is he supposed to do now? If he, Rabotai, people don't understand one thing about Talmidei Chachamim. If they wanted to, they could have gone out into the world, they could have worked, they could have become billionaires and millionaires. But they decided to sit and learn Torah and devote their life to Hashem. And that you do not want to support. But some, Rabotai, excuse my language, but some stupid game somewhere out in the world or some stupid party, you're willing to spend money on it. But to help Talmidei Chachamim, that I don't have, Rabbi. I don't have. Is $50 good? Rabotai, take the $50. And you know what? Let's continue. Ubichlal l'isa isha, included in the rule of marrying a woman when it comes to selling a Sefer Torah, Isa lahasi yutumim. It says that one has to also marry off orphans. Another problem. Bidamav, the money that they sold the Sefer Torah with. So if you sell the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to use that money to marry off orphaned, lo aleinu chas v'shalom, orphaned boys. K'mo shekad b'Orach Chaim, Siman Kuf Nun Gimel, like it's written in Orach Chaim, in Siman Kuf Nun Gimel, that's Siman 153. Rabotai, this is why, you know this is called, it's a reality check. When you start learning Halacha, you see how much we're not doing. We see, Rabotai, I see it, Rabotai. I see how much we're not doing. I'll put it to you like this. No matter how much you tell me you're doing, I'll still tell you you're not doing enough. Because that's a fact. When was the last time you had an orphan, Chas v'Shalom lo aleinu, boy come to the shul from Israel, ask for a donation? What? You think the shuls give them flat out $20,000, $30,000 checks that they need for the whole wedding? These poor boys, they don't know what to do already with themselves. From place to place. And the people that bring them there, they take up to 50% from what they collect. And plus the taxes that go to the credit card machine, all the percentage, interest, whatever it is. So what's he left in the end with? 20%, 30%. So he collected $10,000. What is he left with? $3,000. That's going to make his wedding. Rabotai, that's going to make his wedding. And we have the chutzpah to sit and say, we don't have. You have. You want to keep it for yourself. That's all it is. Somehow, shuls are being built, millions of dollars. I don't know how. I don't know how. It's being built, Baruch Hashem. But to sustain an orphan, or Talmidei Chachamim, or to help a regular boy to get married because he doesn't have the parnasa, somehow that we don't have. Why? They're not our responsibility. They're not our responsibility. If anything, Rabotai, they're our responsibility more than anything else. More than anything else. Continues the Be'etiv. V'lav davka Sefer Torah, not only we're dealing over here with the Sefer Torah, Elahu Adin, Shar Sefarim Nami Asur Limchor, Ela Ledvarim Elu. not only a Sefer Torah and other books you're not allowed to sell unless it's specifically for these things. Meaning to say that when it comes to the rule of Sefer Torah, if you're allowed to sell the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to sell everything else. Kituvim, Nivim, whatever other book, Rabotai, you're allowed. So if you're allowed to sell the Sefer Torah for these things, you're allowed to go ahead and sell other books for these things also. That's what he says. V'lav davka Sefer Torah, and that's not specifically only Sefer Torah this applies to. Elahu Adin, the same halacha is going to apply to Shar Sefarim, also to other books. Nami asur limchor ela ledvarim elu. It's going to be forbidden unless it's for these things. Kemo shekatav biyordei Siman Reish Ayin v'chein katav Beit Hillel. It's written in Siman Reish Ayin. That's in 270, and so too Beit Hillel wrote that. It's one of the achronim on the Shulchan Aruch. V'katav hacham. Rabotai, now we're going to see, again, you're learning with me, so just try to upgrade your learning level. It's not, no stories, it's learning. V'katav hacham, whenever we say we're hacham, if we take into the Shulchan Aruch, we'll see, in the inside you have what's called chalkak mechokek. I don't know if you guys can see it from there, but if you can, you can. Not, I'll tell you like this. Beit Shmuel. So whenever a Talmud Chacham, whenever he's going to speak, he can tell you Beit Shmuel, but it's easier to say Bash. Why? Beit is the bet. The beginning of the first letter of the first word is bet. The beginning of the second letter of the second word is shin. So you're going to take bet, and you're going to say, take shin, it's going to be Bash. Instead of saying Beit Shmuel, you're going to say Bash. Okay. Cham, over here, right here. Chalkak mechokak. Instead of saying all the time his name, you're going to say Cham. How? Same concept. The beginning of the first word for the beginning of the first letter for the first word is Chet. The beginning of the first letter for the second word is Mem. So it spells Chet and Mem spell Cham. Okay, so that's how we're going to go, Rabotai. Whenever I say Hacham, Habash, you guys should understand that it's going on the Beit Shmuel and the Chalkak Mechokek. Okay. Michla, skip it one line, a few lines actually. V'katav hacham, the Cham wrote, Davka mishum mitzvah pru urvu mochrim Sefer Torah. When the Shulchan Aruch tells you you're allowed to sell the Sefer Torah in order to be able to marry a woman, that specifically we're dealing with a person that did not fulfill the mitzvah of pru urvu in the world of Beit Hillel, which is a boy and a girl. So that means if you want to sell a Sefer Torah for a boy to get married, or an orphan, Chas V'Shalom Lo Aleinu, to get married, no problem. They must not have fulfilled the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. According to the Cham, if they fulfilled the mitzvah of Pru Urvu, whatever the situation might have been, they fulfilled it, and then they got divorced, or Chas V'Shalom Lo Aleinu, she died, and now he wants to get remarried. According to the Cham, you're not allowed to sell the Sefer Torah to a boy, or for a boy that already fulfilled the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying. So that's what he says, specifically, we sell the Sefer Torah because for the mitzvah of Pru, because we still want him to do the mitzvah which is from the Torah of Pru. Avala siya yitoma, but to marry off an orphan girl, nobody should ever know this. Hashem should send these kind of people, Yeshuat keher v'ayin, quick salvation. Avala siya yitoma, but to go ahead and marry off an orphan girl, ein mochrim. You're not allowed to sell the Sefer Torah on her behalf. Why? Ki hi eina mitzvah apru urvu. Because she's not commended in the mitzvah of pru urvu. The guy has the mitzvah of pru urvu, not the girl. Ela davka lasiyoto mochrim mishum pru urvu. Specifically, when it comes to marrying off an orphan, a boy orphan, do we sell the Sefer Torah because he has to fulfill the mitzvah of pru urvu. That was the opinion of the Cham. Vehabash comes the Beit Shmuel. That's the Vehabash. And the Bash said like this. Vehabash katav alav, and the Bash wrote on the Cham. So now the Bash is arguing on the Cham. Mihu, he says, Lamash katuv lekam and sivchet, what's written later on in Halacha chet, Mochrin Sefer Torah likayem le'erev al tanachidcha. We'll see later on, in the Halacha Chet, it says over there that one is allowed to go ahead and sell the Sefer Torah to fulfill the mitzvah of Le'erev al tenach yedcha. Remember we had this before. In the evening, do not pull your hand back. Meaning, even if you're ready to fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu, still there's a mitzvah to bring more children to the world. So you're allowed to sell it. Even if you already had children, you're allowed to still sell the Sefer Torah for the guy who wants to get remarried now. Even though you're ready to fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu. So he says, if that's the case over there, yes, Shlomar, then one can say, La siyotoma nami muchrim Sefer Torah, lekayem l'shevet yitzara. So therefore he says, one can say that you are also allowed to sell a Sefer Torah for an orphan girl to fulfill the mitzvah of l'shevet yitzara. Because when Hashem created the world, Hashem did not create the world to be a wasteland, chas v'shalom. Hashem created the world for the purpose that the people should inhabit it and populate it with people. A woman is commended on the mitzvah of populating the world. If without her, how are you going to have children? That's why comes the Bash, and the Bash says to the Cham, I'm sorry. If later on we could see that when it comes to the guy where he fulfilled the mitzvah of Pruvu, and you're allowed to sell the Torah, so we see clearly it has nothing to do with Pruvu, because he already fulfilled the mitzvah of Pruvu. Because you want to say he starts to do the mitzvah of the Erev al tenach yedcha. Good, beautiful. Same thing with the girl. She has a mitzvah also, l'shevet yatzara, that she has to go ahead and the world has to be occupied with people. She has that mitzvah of populating the people with children. That's her mitzvah. So therefore comes the Bash and he argues on the Cham. So Rabotai, when you learn the Shulchan Aruch, when it says that you are only allowed to sell the Sefer Torah to only marry a woman, right? I'm just taking away Limud Torah because we already discussed that. I'm just going with what the Beheita was saying. So you are only allowed to sell the Sefer Torah to marry a woman. Automatic in your mind, according to the Cham, this means in the world of the Shulchan Aruch, you are only selling the Sefer Torah for an orphan boy who did not do the mitzvah of Pruvu. According to the Bash, you could even sell it for a boy who did the mitzvah of Pruvu. What does it come out? What do I care? Very big difference. According to the Cham, you cannot marry off an orphan girl with the matzah, with the money of the Sefer Torah. According to the Bash, you're allowed to go ahead and marry off a girl with the money of the Sefer Torah, an orphan girl. So that's what Rabotai, this is how you learn, this is how you plug in the words into the Shulchan Aruch and so on and so forth. Okay. Continues the Beheita, but the Beheita is like this. He has a problem with the Bash. Why? But what's written later on in Sof Seif Yud Gimel towards the end of the Halacha of 13, in the Ramah, it says that the Halacha over there says, we'll see it when we get there, Isha al tishev below ba'al mishum chashad. A woman shouldn't be without a husband. No woman should ever be without a husband. Why? Because of suspicion. People are going to think that she's going around left and right and she's doing things. She's doing sins, basically. Now, Rabotai, I'm saying to say that, to say it. I'll say it. People have to know, Rabotai. I one time dealt with a couple, and I didn't know that they got divorced, and I was very taken aback. Why do people just jump into divorce? Listen, divorce, okay, fine, understand, not normal, whatever it might be, abusive. Listen, I'm not telling you not. There are exceptions to the rule. But this particular family to me was a shock because I'm like, I known you guys, like how? So the answer the husband gave me, he says, I want to tell you something, Rabbi. And he said like this. He says, before she married me, I'm going to speak straight, Rabotai, I don't like going like this. Before she married me, her virginity was already broken. Whether it was by me, by him. He's speaking to me, whether it was by the husband, the original husband, or whether by somebody else. It was. Whatever it was. So why did she get married to me, he said? Because she wanted to show the world that her virginity was taken by her husband. So once we got married, he says, after the first week of marriage, she already started going here and here, and she started doing Averis. Now, nobody would believe that she would do Averis, and nobody would say that she lost her virginity because of going places, because everybody still assumes they are saying it's because of the husband. So even if she divorces now, when she gets remarried, nobody's going to know that she really did severe Averis, severe sins, going out with other men. So that's why he told me he got divorced, because once they got married, it was all a cover-up to allow her to continue doing sins. So now when she's divorced, nobody suspects, meaning even if she wants to get remarried, everybody knows that she's not a virgin. So there's nothing wrong because they think the first husband took it, but while in reality she's doing Averis. That's what the halacha later on says, that why shouldn't a woman stay alone? Why shouldn't a woman be by herself? Why does she have to get married? Because of chashad. This is exactly the reason why. People start assuming, okay, how can she be without a husband? People start talking, and that's a problem. But comes the Beheitim Rabotai, and he's trying to teach us something. If the Ramah writes the whole reason why a woman has to get married is because of the chashad, because of suspicion that we're going to suspect that she's with other men, so what am I going to do with the Bash? The Bash said that a woman has a mitzvah to get married. 1 second. If a woman has a mitzvah to get married, so why did the Ramah bring the reason is L'Shevet Yatara, to populate the world? Like the Bash wants to say. Why did the Ramah have to say because of chashad, because of suspicion? Must be from the Ramah. It's implied that the Bash is off. Chas v'shalom. I'm just speaking to you the way the Beheitim is saying it. That means the Bash is wrong. It cannot be the reason that we're going to be able to allow you to use the money of a Sefer Torah for an orphan girl is because she has the mitzvah of the Shevet Yatzara. That cannot be. Why? Because the Ramah says the reason why we need a woman to get married is because we don't want to suspect them. If the reason was the Shevet Yatzara to populate the land, why didn't the Ramah bring it down as a halacha? So that's why the Beheitim says it's a little bit hard to understand the Bash. How can he tell me that there's a mitzvah for a woman to populate the world where the Ramah himself did not bring this halacha down? Okay. That he says, Umiu l'mashu katav sof sivid gimel, ba'aga ish al teshev below ba'al mishum chashad. It's a very big problem. Right? That however, this was written later on and towards the end of Halach Yud Gimel in the Haggah, that a woman should not be without a husband because of chashad and not because of l'shevet yatzara. If it's not because of l'shevet yatzara, and it's because of chashad, so Beis Shmuel, what are you telling me? How are you allowing me to use money from a Sefer Torah to marry off an orphan girl? Continues the Rabotai the Beheitim, and he says like this: V'hu meha Rambam. This halacha of the Ramah comes from the Rambam, Perek Tetvav, that's pasuk 15. Mehilchot Ishut, from halachot of marriages, Din Yudvav, halacha 16. Okay. Yes, just want to make sure that I give you guys the right sources. Rambam Perek Tetvav, chapter 15, Halachot Ishut, that's halachot of marriages, Din Yud Vav, which is halacha 16. Fine. Mashma de'ena mitzuveh al shevet. It's implied from over there, from the Rambam and from the Ramah, that a woman is not obligated in the mitzvah of shevet, meaning in the mitzvah to inhabit and populate the world. So we see clearly from over there that the Bash has a problem with this. Now, basically, you have the Cham, you have the Ramah, who's going like the Rambam, that are all saying in one language that you're not allowed to use the money from a Sefer Torah to marry off an orphan girl because she's not commended in the mitzvah of populating the world. He says, look into the response of the Radach. Shekatav, that he wrote over there, Sheha'isha mitzuveh al shevet, that a woman is commended in the mitzvah of the Shevet Yatzara. A woman is commended in the mitzvah of bringing children down, meaning she's commended in the mitzvah of inhabiting and populating the world. So good. So now you have 3 against 2. You have the Cham, the Ramah, the Rambam against the Bash, and the Radach, where the Radach says that a woman also has. So according to the Radach, according to the Radach, an orphan girl would be allowed to use the money from the Sefer Torah which was sold in order to marry her off, because she has the mitzvah of L'shevet Itara, which means to inhabit and populate the world. Rabotai, the next piece, it's still a continuation of the Beheitav, but it gets a little bit technical. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for tomorrow, B'Zrat Hashem, because as you're going to see, I'll just read it for you right now. He says, Uluchoyer kasha. He says, seemingly it's difficult to understand this. Meaning, the im yesh lomar, because if you're going to say, the muchrim Sefer Torah, that you're allowed to sell the Sefer Torah, like the Bash and like the Radach say, bishvila si yetoma, in order to marry off an orphan girl, kedei lekayem shevet yatzar, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of inhabiting and populating the world, it's a little bit difficult to understand why. If so, you have a problem. Hachinami, so too, muchrim Sefer Torah, so too you're allowed to go ahead and sell the Sefer Torah, bishvil, in order, shelo yamod hu belo isha, that a guy shouldn't be without a wife. Av beshikvar kiyem pru urvu, ki svarat yesh omrim shebesiv chet. Even if you're ready to fulfill the mitzvah of procreating, having a boy and a girl, according to Beit Hillel, like the opinion of the ones that say in Halacha Chet. So Rabotai, honestly, I don't think I'm going to be able to get all this much in now, because you have to go back and forth. So what I'm going to do is like this. I'm going to leave off with this question over here, that the Be'etiv is saying like this: if you're going to tell me, like the Bash and like the Radach, that you're allowed to go ahead and sell the Sefer Torah in order to marry off an orphaned girl, then you're going to have a problem. Why? Because now you're no longer dealing with the mitzvah pruvu. So if I'm not dealing with the mitzvah pruvu, so therefore we can go ahead and tell you that we can even sell the Sefer Torah on behalf of a person that already fulfilled the mitzvah of pruvu. Why? Because what's the difference by him? He also has the mitzvah of L'shevet Yatzara. He also has the mitzvah of inhabiting and populating the world. It's from the guy comes the children, no? So that's what Rabotai, you're going to see that it's going to be a little bit of a problem, because he's going to quote some Gemaras which need a little bit explanation, B'Zrat Hashem tomorrow. With this we will conclude today. So this will be, let's make it part 1 for Halacha Bet. But we did see a small review, Rabotai. We did see very important today. One is allowed to sell the Sefer Torah. If he doesn't have money to be able to learn Torah, he's allowed to sell the Torah to learn Torah. He doesn't have money to get married, he's allowed to sell the Torah to get married. That's number 2. Halacha number 3, we saw that you're allowed to sell the Torah in order to sustain Talmidei Chachamim. Halacha number 4, we are allowed to sell the Sefer Torah in order to marry off an orphan boy, in order for him to do the mitzvah of pruvu according to the Cham. Then we saw, I'm saying that was not according to the Cham, but meaning say that was the opinion of the Cham. 1 second. Ken, 1 second. Right, that was the opinion of the Cham, correct, exactly. That was the opinion of the Cham, that he says that the whole reason why you're allowed to go ahead and sell the Sefer Torah, that's only because you're doing it for an orphan, where he has the mitzvah of puru, he has to be fruitful and multiply, you're allowed to sell it. But for a woman who doesn't have that mitzvah, you're not going to be allowed to sell the Sefer Torah on her behalf. But we did see the Bash, okay, so who agreed with the Cham that you're not allowed to sell the Sefer Torah for the girl in order to fulfill the mitzvah of the Shevet Yatzara? Who agreed with the Cham? The Rambam and the Ramah, because the Ramah said because of the Chashad. So if it's because of the Chashad, it's not because of the Shevet Yatzara, so therefore you're not allowed to sell it on her behalf. However, the Bash and the Radach, they both say that even a woman has the mitzvah of inhabiting and populating the world, and we left off with a question, but another Bezrat Hashem will take it up. We'll take it on tomorrow. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen ve'amen.